Yeah. Hello, everybody. My name is LootVT. I am a streamer and video essayist that is, well, making this video for the first time. This is going to be a retrospective, a pretty early on retrospective of videos that I've done in the past. I will not be doing this frequently, because I need to make sure that I have some time when I release videos. If I do all of them now, then I would just get them all done very early on. Um, but yes, I am a VTuber. I go by she, her. If anybody has a problem with that, I'm sorry. That's just me. That's my identity. You'll have to accept it. So I'm making this video for a few reasons. The first of which is I am watching some of Tomato Anus's retrospectives on speedrunning that he has done in the past for his Patreon. And he does this for himself to learn what to do better for future videos. And he also does it just to show people his thought processes when he's making videos. And I wanted to try to replicate that. So yeah. Um I always say this whenever I'm doing anything that is inspired by something. Um, yes, there is an inspiration there. I did take inspiration from Tomato Anus, but I want to turn this into my own thing, my own way. So what you'll get here is a very lightly edited Patreon video. You can get these 6 months in advance if you are on Patreon, but otherwise you're going to have to wait for the full 6 months for this video to come out. This will probably be uploaded on my Everyday Loot channel. We'll see where I think that this is the best to go. I'm not entirely sure where this will go, to be completely frank. So today I wanted to talk about the first real video that I did, aside from, obviously the new Undertale boss, which is kind of like a channel trailer more than anything. It was me testing the waters, if you will, on video editing and what people would like to watch, before I had the main concept down for what this channel would be. So the videos here, though, are released really close to each other. I released this in the oh fuck, it was at the end of May, I believe. No, this one was at the beginning of May. This was May 1st, 2024. Right now, obviously, it has 3,878 views. It didn't start out that way, and I want to talk about that a little bit, but that's kind of like the backstory of this. And today, for reference, it is October 24th, 2024 when I'm recording this. So it'll be well into 2025 when you see this outside of Patreon. So what I want to do for these videos is take a look back at why I did what I did and provide some insight for people who may be watching, and they want to know how to make their own video essays. These will be filled and riddled with mistakes. Don't expect me, to provide you with the perfect answer every single time. I don't have that. I can never provide that for you because everybody works in their own ways. They have their own techniques, their processes, and the like. So, but you will get a little bit more than just, uh, you'll get a little bit more than just, I did this because of that. I want to give you the full rundown of why I made these videos. And we'll see how I could have improved later on if I was to do this now. Even though this is like 5 months ago that I did this, um, my videos that I'm working on, especially the Ocarina of Time one on the only Zelda game that has this mechanic, I have improved dramatically. And that as of right now, that is my third video. I haven't uploaded it as of yet. I'm still waiting for the day to upload it, so it'll be coming here soon. But this is just the starting point for me, and I think that that's really important when contextualizing what we're watching. And if you're taking any notes yourself, just know that it's okay to fuck up. I have had to tell myself time and time again especially while I was recording even this Ocarina of Time video that I'm doing that I am very proud of, that I do lack the skill set to do everything that my heart desires. I can't replicate my brain into this video yet. I'm still learning. There's so much to know, so much to learn and tackle. It will take time. And that's kind of what I've tried to learn and mentor myself through this process. Just put out the content, if that makes sense. Just do it. Because if you put it out, it'll be out there to learn and you will learn from your mistakes, yada yada. You know how it goes. So let's take a look at this video. This is the first real video that I did, the Sly Cooper speedrun you've never heard of. So, to give a little backstory as to why I made this video, I was watching Pinch, my partner, who is also a fellow VTuber. They were playing Sly Cooper for the first time, and this genuinely they had never done it before. And they're a raccoon VTuber. They've heard about the game, but they've never played about this. They've never played the series themselves. And we made it to the part in the uh, in Mugshot's world in Utah. I always forget the name of it, but we'll see it here in just a moment. Um, we make it to that point where we are protecting Murray up the ramp, and the first thing that Pinch does is kill Murray, like just straight up kills him. And you'll see me reference this back in the video, and that stuck with me because instantly in my brain something just switched and I had the idea. I don't know why I thought of this, but the idea of speedrunning and killing Murray as fast as possible was born. And fast forward a few months from that point, it had been a little bit. I finally decided to get off my butt and make this video. So, this is a long passion project. I have been wanting to make video essays and the like, video documentaries on different medias for a very long time. I'm talking 10 plus years. That is how long I've wanted to do this. And I finally worked up the courage to do it. And this is the video that I produced. I did all of my research. Uh, I learned the run up until that point where you kill Murray at that level. I practiced for an entire month and I streamed almost all of it live on Twitch, aside from the main final product, because I wanted that to be segmented and perfect, kind of like how Tomato Anus does it, or at least how he has his guest runner do it when he's recording the video. And again, I take a lot of inspiration from Tomato Anus. I think that he is extremely grounded in his ideology and the things that he does. He's a very, very prominent speedrunning community member, even if he doesn't run the games himself. And it is a huge inspiration. Like this video in its entirety was inspired by his run where he's trying to kill a baby in Fallout, whatever the game was. And throughout the run, he created arbitrary rules. And that really, hit home for me. I wanted to do something similar. And I wanted to explore the concept of making my own speedrun. Um, so yeah, that's like kind of the setup. I know I'm rambling for a little bit. I'm sorry. These will be a little bit more candid, less edited, no script. I'm just going off the top of my head. So that's what you're gonna get. That's what you paid for. So, as we'll see, I actually used footage from a speedrunner who is currently the world record holder for, as of today at least, for any percent for Sly Cooper, any percent, and I believe 100 or all keys. So 100% all keys. Not 100% abilities, just getting every single key in the game. And that is Gehi's 514, I believe. Gehis is an amazing fellow, and he allowed me to use his clips from his world record run at the start of this video to kind of cement my points. And I just learned the other day, 5 days ago from this point, he uploaded the fastest time that he's gotten in this speed run, which we'll get to in just a moment. Um, and that blew my mind. I just found it yesterday. I didn't know anything about it because YouTube is terrible when it comes to like pinging people when they are included in something. And it made my night. I was so happy that something that I created is actually not just Gehis, but some other people are running this category too. Um, and even if I'm not like directly named as the person who created it, that is a huge accomplishment to me. That means that I was like what I said is actually worth a damn, even if it's a silly, stupid category. I love it. That is awesome. So I want to, if you're watching this and you want to make videos like this in general, I want you to remember that, you just have to do it. Just give it your best shot. That's all you could ask for, really. That's if you don't do, you won't achieve. And in order to achieve, you have to actually start. And that has been my journey up until this point. So that's enough yapping from me. Let's talk about this speed run and the video. So, right off the gate, I kind of know what I want to talk about, but we'll see. This is still a little fresh to me, so I know exactly what I go through in these points. One of the first things I'll point out is that I swapped microphones in the middle of this session, where I swapped its positioning. So for some reason, I sound really down throughout this video, and I don't know why. I felt like I put a lot of emotion, and I kind of get into it later on, but this entire video I just sound off, and it's kind of like non-euphoric. There's some dysphoria there, but also uh like we'll talk about it. Let's go over it. Let's open this up. So the Sly Cooper speedrun you've never heard of, I called it MMD%, which is Murray Must Die percent, which is kind of a play on words for, Miku Miku Dance. It was meant as a way for me to try to reach the algorithm a little bit better. But let's talk about this really fast. Let's talk about this. This is a super important point. When it comes to making videos that in general people don't think about as much, but it is so important. So I'm going to bring up this image onto screen. This is the thumbnail that I commissioned by Winry Loveday, otherwise known as Bitterkins. That is the official title for their art. So bringing it right onto the screen, this is my thumbnail for this video. I'll have to cut that out. Uh, editor's note, cut out the top of the screen. But this is the thumbnail. We have Murray being overshadowed by me, and it is Mugshot's world. We have a bunch of references here, which is super cool, super nice. We have the Among Us right here in the corner. There's a bunch of little details in here. This is the logo of my partner over here in the corner. But obviously the main focal point of this image is me, right? I cemented my brand with this, and I cemented exactly what I wanted to encapsulate for this video. If you take a look at this title, and I say the Sly Cooper speedrun you've never heard of, and the first thing you see is Murray, and then the next thing you see is Mugshot from Sly 1, you can intuit that I'm talking about Sly 1, but I don't directly tell you. I'm showing you versus telling you, and that was what I wanted to encapsulate for this. And this thumbnail is great. Do not get me wrong. I think that this combination worked perfectly, but YouTube didn't snag my video as well, so it only got, at the time, like way, way a long time ago, when it first released, it only snagged 1,000 views. It took a very, very long time up until this point to get nearly 4K. And that is due to the next video, which we'll talk about at a later date. But this is the thing that I thought about so hard when I was creating it, right? So keep that in mind. MMD%. Let's start the video. So right out the gate, I have a critique. I think that my intro goes on for too long before I start talking. And you see that I try to abridge it here and bring it all together. I cut a large portion out. Like, if you've seen the intro to Sly, you'll know that he does a lot of sneaking through this beginning portion. It's a good minute long, this intro, normally, and I've cut it down to like 20 seconds. Sly Cooper in the Thievius Raccoonus for the PlayStation 1 has an insanely optimized any percent category, from triple jumps to dog proxies and cutscene skipping. There's a lot to learn when it comes to running this game, and despite how optimized the run is, it still has a ton of room for improvement. When I was making this video, I tried so hard to learn the tech. I just couldn't do it. I did everything on my own. I looked up guides. I wasn't a part of the community to ask questions, how to do things. I really should have. The biggest regret I have is not trying to optimize this run more than I did. I was limited. I limited myself to 1 month total for being able to play the game, because I didn't want to burn myself out on just playing this. But I really should have taken the extra steps to improve. And I'll point those out as we go. Just a few months ago, Sly speedrunner Gehi's set the world record for any percent, but he didn't hit certain jumps first try.
I see.
And for world record pace, he even died right during Miss Ruby's boss fight. Even with those so let's talk about that really fast. So I used these clips from Gehi's. He was kind enough to let me use them. I wish I had put these all together a little bit better, right? World record for any percent, but he didn't hit certain jumps first try. So you can hear right there, it's like really slight. Gehi's set the world record for any percent, but he didn't hit certain jumps first. He didn't hit certain jumps first try, because I hate going back and re-recording lines, mostly because I couldn't get them to sound the same. And, you know, I breathe a lot. I'm very breathy. I'm sure you've heard it right now. I'm very, what is it? I make a lot of mouth noises that I'm trying to figure out slowly and improve on. And I did that here, but I also had a terrible bridged gap between the word and jumps, right? The first, you know, he didn't hit the first jump, like that stuff like that. I really need to work on that. I need to work on enunciating better, taking more than just the one take. I just need to not be lazy. Let's be honest. That is a big issue for me. But that's my like big critique here. I wish I could have used more footage, but I really stretched myself short for this. And you'll see why. I'll explain why in a minute. First try.
I see.
And for world record pace, he even died right during Miss Ruby's boss fight. This phrase right here, and for world record pace, he even died right during Miss Ruby's boss fight. I have a tendency to flower my words. I add words to a sentence that don't need to be there. They are pointless. It is so pointless to say he even died right during. It could have just been he even died during Miss Ruby's boss fight. But when I'm writing the script, it's really hard for me to think about this. And to be fair, this was my first script, so I'm not going to give myself too much issue. But when we look at other videos, the next one with the Sly 3 video and my Ocarina of Time video, I flower my words, and I really need to work on that. Yeah. Even with those setbacks, his dedication to running this game shone through, with a 31-36. He's just that good. I think that that's a good transition. I give all the relevant information. I should have asked him for the video itself, so it's not that low quality, but it is what it is. I give you the first 3 records. We can see that when I recorded this, he achieved this time 2 months before the record date of this video. The next person in line, who was 2 full minutes behind him, did it 9 days ago. And then the long-running record holder, Neon, who is in 3rd place, who was 1st place, just got beaten. And he held that record, 1st place record, for 2 years. So Neon is great, but I appreciate that right here, I can show off, even if I could do it a little bit better, I can show off that Gehis is very proficient at what he does. He really, like, I am not kidding you. You watch him today, he puts so much effort into running the game and being entertaining all the same. This guy is a bucket of personality. I love him. But that's not why we're here today. This has become a catchphrase of mine, but that's not why we're here today. I like that. I'm probably going to keep it for a long time. If it goes away, then I'm sorry. I'm a subverter, and I love habits. I love making habits, so this is sticking around for a little bit. What if we change the run up a bit? What if instead of going through and beating Mugshot in World 2... Sorry to keep pausing like this. This is just really important. I made this video. My audience, when I made this, the idea was that people would know exactly what I'm talking about here, and those that didn't would be intrigued enough to see what I am trying to lead up to. So the people who are running this category, or running the speedrun category for any percent, know that you're meant to go up to the left here immediately, and you need to proxy jump up into the roof, and then you will super jump into Mugshot's lair. But, I'm taking a right turn here. I want to subvert people's expectations. I think I have good pacing. Even though I wrote the script before I recorded the video run, I was just that knowledgeable on what I wanted to talk about, which could be seen as a bad practice, but that's neither here nor there. I think that I set this up perfectly. Well, not perfectly. There's room for improvement, but I'm talking about the thing. What if we do this? Instead of going left to Mugshot, we take a right. We hung a right as soon as we made it to the main hub for the level. Explain it. Entered cut Murray's to the level big entry, gamble, and did this. I'm going to and kill Murray. I have set you up, and a lot of people would say that this is bad, right? I should, in theory, I shouldn't have shown you the end first. That's sometimes seen as a bad thing, because now that you know what I'm talking about, you can click away. But for a lot of people, the journey is more important than the destination. How did we get here? How is she going to tell me how she got there? And that's kind of what I was trying really hard to focus on, because it's a video essay, right? This is a short video essay. It's 18 minutes. I wanted to make a video that was digestible in a one sitting amount of time, that you didn't have to step away for, unlike most other video essays, which are an hour plus long. That was my goal. That's all I wanted to do. So no fluff, no talking about other things aside from my C2As, which we'll show off. Adding in the hit marker and the intervention sound effect for just a comedic effect. Entered right? Murray's big gamble, and did this. I'm going to... I think that that's funny. And on top of that, up until this point, I have used music from the game. I have not branched out of that. I have not used any of the video essay, like, the... what did people use? They used the Wii Shop channel, the Me theme. They use all of that stuff, the stuff that's outside of the game. Every time I make a video on a game, even within the same series, like I did with Sly 3, I want to only use music from that game, because that music fits the theme already. It already fits within the theming of the game. It's a nice background noise. It helps me not worry about my mouth noises as much going through, yada yada. So this transition right here, I think, is very good. Entered Murray's big gamble, and did this. I'm going to... Welcome to Murray Must Die %. That is... I'm very proud of that. Murray... What I've done up until this point, I've gushed a lot about, Tomato Anus. I love his style. I love his way of doing things, but I knew that for my personality, I couldn't do it. I couldn't replicate it very well, or at least the way that he does it. So I had to make it my own. That's why we have the music. That's why we have a title card. That's why we have a lead up. Um, that is why I have done everything the way that I have up until this point. And at this point in the video, I'm very proud of it. But those are the tiny things: fixing up the flowering of the language, fixing up the what is it? The timing on things, making sure that I give myself more time, re-record lines, and also work on my intro, my hook. So my what I'm saying is okay, but those first 20 seconds where I say absolutely nothing because it's the intro playing might not be a good hook. In fact, it wasn't. This video's analytics showed me that that hook wasn't the best. As opposed to my next hook, which I did really fast, really consistently for the Sly 3 video. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Up until this point, we're a minute and 23 seconds in. That is there's a lot of things to unpack, right? Um, so yeah. So here I'm going to go into the explanation, and I wanna nitpick myself. Must die percent, or MMD percent for short, was a concept brought around when Raccoon VTuber Pinch played Sly 1 for the first time. They made it to Murray's first defense mission, shot him several times for fun, and the rest is history.
You can shoot and kill Murray.
I don't have a lot of notes on that. Probably, more concise to my point. The rest is history is kind of leads nowhere. Personally, um, even if it does work, I would much rather say something along the lines of like, and this is how it was born. This is where it started. Um, I don't like the phrase "the rest is history." History. It's a nothing burger phrase, and it doesn't tell you anything. I'm just supposed to assume that you know exactly what I'm looking for. But I also do put a lot of faith in my viewers, so maybe that's a bad thing. I don't know. Maybe that's a psychoanalysis that I need to work on. But yeah, you could see me up there in the chat. This was when I was Irisu, and I was perfectly fine with showing that off. I wanted to make a run where we try to kill Murray as fast as possible. So we have our objective, but what are the rules? How do we reach Murray? At its core, the run follows the any percent rules and route for the most part, with a few exceptions. Firstly, emulators are allowed to allow the run to be more accessible to casual players. I feel really dumb. I feel really stupid for this point, because I was working on like 5 hours of sleep. I'm a chef in real life. I work for 5 hours, or I sleep for 5 hours pretty much all my life. And I'm trying to fix that. But at this time, this was the least amount of sleep I'd gotten in a long time. I literally just never noticed on the speedrun.com website for Sly Cooper that there was an emulator specific section. So I didn't have to make this point at all. I thought that every run had to be PS3. Maybe at the time it was removed and I was completely valid, but I just didn't know. I didn't have that knowledge. I didn't think about it. So this is, as of right now, factually incorrect, but I'm almost positive that it was no emulator runs for the time being. I don't know. I can't remember, and I'm really sorry. Also, I want to pick a better text for this. I would have done this a little bit less thick on the drop shadow, but I digress. You also absolutely must watch the animated first cutscene with Sly's backstory.
I'll explain that in a
I'll
sec.
explain in a bit.
Yep.
Finally, the run ends after you shoot Murray. He does this twirl and hits the ground. Pretty straightforward. Before we continue on, I need to emphasize that I am not a full-time speedrunner. The footage you will see is not perfectly optimized, but to its credit, that's exactly what I intended for it to do. I think that even the most casual of players can speedrun this silly little category. Silly little category. Little is a flowered word. I use little a lot. I'm a very flowery person. I don't know why. Aside from the eyes, but it could have just been this silly category, this goofy category. Again, this takes a lot of inspiration from Tomato Anus's videos where he makes his own run. My intent was that anybody could attempt this, which I'm glad that some people have tried it, outside of my core group of friends, and they've found success in this category. I knew that this could be a very optimized run, and because it's so short, it doesn't take anything from you, right? There's nothing stolen from you. You lose 8 minutes. Cool. In a normal run of this game, it's 35 minutes. That's a long time. That's one of the fastest times. So 8 minutes is nothing in comparison. You can get, what is it, 4 or 5 runs done of this as opposed to a normal record, right? Or a normal run of the any%. So I think that this is a good point. I set it up in a way that makes sense. I feel I was concise with things. Obviously, the flowering of the language is one thing to talk about, but let's begin. A core part of the Thievius raccoonus is the obsessive amounts of binocucom conversations with Bentley. Oh, and you know what I need to go back and talk about really fast? So we're at 2:35. I don't really, I always forget about this. I say Sly Cooper and the Thievius
Sly Cooper and the
raccoonus
Thievius.
for the PlayStation 1. I fucked up too. Again, super tired. I was so tired and sleep deprived. I thought that this game was for the PS1 originally. Even though I played the game on the PS2 the entire time, I even played the PS3 version for a little bit. I don't know where I got this from. I'm going to be completely honest with you. It slipped through the cracks during editing. Nobody else noticed while I was showing it off to my friends as well. So I'm really sorry that happened. A lot of people pointed it out, but I digress again.
QCOM conversations with Bentley. However, runners learned very early on that the split second the binoculars appear on the screen, you can pause, reload the game, and the conversation will be treated as though you've already listened to it. Because we start the game off in a cutscene like this, the community all collectively decided that the run officially begins after we hit X at the start of the game to skip this dialogue. Don't worry though, we'll still use this trick at certain points during the run. Another big part of this game is its...
So, this is something that I've seen Tomato Anus talk about in his retrospectives, because he wants to do everything in one straight line, right? He tries his best to do everything so that it is happening all at once. There's not a lot of pausing. But I knew that because of how short this run was going to be, I knew from the very beginning that I would have to take pauses. I would need to explain things as they happen. I would need to explain things that would take too long early, like especially repetitive things, so that I can call back to them earlier. This is something that Tomato Anus talks about that he really, really wanted to hammer home for his later videos. And you can see it in his editing. And as he's gotten better at editing and script writing, he has to do this less and less, which is super cool. But obviously, I had to work with what I had. And on top of all of that, I forgot to record my button inputs, and I explain a lot of things on a button input level. And I had to make manually every single button input. I had to go frame by frame to make sure that I was pressing the right buttons at the right time and that coordinated with what graphic was being shown on screen. And I used a basic graphic pack. You'll see what I mean when I say it. I just want to explain that now. A huge thing I would change for the future when I'm doing a game speedrun with a ton of technical inputs, record the inputs themselves so I don't have to actually spend another 5 hours. That was 5 hours of editing that got added on because I forgot that. And again, I was too lazy to go back. Don't be lazy. Just do it.
unspoken
Anyways.
movement tech in the form of slope jumping and long jumping. Slope jumping is simply the act of pushing Sly into a slope as we jump, which allows him to glide up it for more height than a normal jump would allow. Long jumping, on the
So that was something that I actually did ish. Like again, I knew what I wanted to do. That's the benefit to writing the script first and then going back and following the script, was I knew exactly what I wanted to talk about, right? I knew exactly. I was like, okay, so I actually need this as points to show off, and that was a huge help for me. Again, I would only try to make these segments shorter, but I think that I've done a very good job up until this point.
Jump, which allows him to glide up it for more height than a normal jump would allow. Long jumping, on the other hand, is performed by pressing X to jump and holding X while we jump to preserve Sly's momentum long.
See, I had to make this X graphic. Um I had to make sure I could see visually exactly what I would let go and press and hold and yada yada. It took a lot of effort. I could have saved so much time by just recording the inputs, but I digress again.
Longer than a tap would normally do. You can also do this during your double jump. Immediately after we start the run, there are actually 2 valid options for running this level that completely trivialize its tutorial functionality. The first of which is an insane—
I don't like this here. I already paused, right? I already paused. I should have kept the pause and not done that effect again where I make it sound like I unpaused. I was already doing my explaining, right? I should have just said, as soon as we start the run, there are actually 2 viable ways to do this level, and then I explained them, and then we start the run. It would have flown better, or flowed better, not flown. It would have flowed better to my exact point. So it's just like a mixing and matching to make sure that the point is like, the point is intentionally peaks and valleys so that like it flows. But it's not a like I'm at this peak and I'm jumping to the other peak, then we're going down the valley and then we're going over the peak again. I don't know if that makes sense, but
insanely precise proxy to launch Sly all the way to Murray's van. A proxy is done when Sly is placed into a position where the game does not want him to be, such as in a gap just wide enough to hold him but narrows down to the point where he can't land.
something I would like to point out is that this is an extremely dumbed down version of what is actually happening. I know that it is way more complex than this, but it was also an intentional decision on my part to make everything as simple as possible for the people who don't know what is happening, who have never seen a speedrun, who have never heard of Sly. You can relate to this. I feel like this is so easy to understand. Even if you're a proficient speedrunner and you look at this, I can't see why anyone would be upset with me, but I can also understand if someone looked and was like, yeah, that's not how it actually works. You're wrong. Um, but I opted for a dumbed down version.
A fun quirk while Sly is in this state sees the game trying to do everything in its power to get Sly out of this position, even if it means breaking its own physics to do so. This particular proxy can yield some pretty crazy results.
I don't think I actually explained it. The first of which is an insanely precise proxy to launch Sly all the way to Murray's van, but I don't say something like, this is the Paris proxy, because this is what it's called. It's referred to as Paris proxy. And I had to refer to Gehi's here because he was able to do it. I couldn't do it. I couldn't figure this one out because there's no video evidence out there explaining how this works outside of their Discord, which I didn't join until just recently. And I kick myself for that. I'm not very happy with myself for that. But it is what it is. I'm very grateful that he allowed me to use this clip to explain my point because I really wanted to show off that it is possible. I just couldn't do it.
Its own physics to do so. This particular proxy can yield some pretty crazy results, but since I didn't master it for the video, we'll be going with the other, more safe method, death barrier skip.
Again, it's not the technical term. I just used a term that you could recognize as a casual person who watches speedruns. But I also, like, as much as I kick myself for not mastering it and doing it myself for authenticity, I'm glad that I did do it this way just to show both examples so that people can do this way, you know. For those that don't know, Neon, the guy who I was talking about earlier with his record for 2 years, this is what Neon did. And Neon did this and kept the record, even though people like Gehis could do the Paris proxy, which was super cool. I wish I could have talked about it though. I feel really goofy. Anyways,
To do Death Barrier Skip, you just jump onto this antenna, then up to the corner of the roof. When Sly begins to tiptoe, signifying he's near a ledge, you perform a neutral jump, and immediately input diagonally up right until we clear the vent, at which point we shift diagonally up left while pressing X again to double jump.
I'm actually just noticing that that is off a little bit in terms of the button inputs that I do, so I apologize.
Ledge, you perform a neutral jump, and immediately input diagonally up right.
Yeah, I'm actually holding up left right here, and I don't show it
Until we clear.
I take another frame to do up only,
the vent,
and then I take another few frames to do up left to show that input.
At which point we shift diagonally.
The A press is perfect because it's
left
easy to
while
see
pressing X
when Sly is jumping, but again, could have been avoided. I won't talk about it too much, but whenever you see that, just know it was a lot of work to try to get it to work, and it doesn't work all the time, which it kind of ruins my point. So this is not a very easy video to follow and learn the run from.
Again to double jump. This jump may seem tricky at first, but with a little practice and trying to aim for this crack in the wall, you can still get this skip relatively fast. Either way, one quick run up to Murray's van and we've already completed the tutorial level.
So I sped up this part because I didn't have anything to say. I didn't write down anything to say for this part, and I really should have, because there's a lot of dead air here. It's awkward. We still play the cutscene, and now there's dialogue. I should have said something. I should have had at least some sound effects, something. But yeah, this is where I explain why you need to watch the cutscene. It's very integral to the run. This also kind of goes into the same vein as when Tomato Anus does his goofy runs. There's bogus requirements in order to beat it, and I did it for a reason. I just didn't want the run to be 5 minutes. I wanted to give people the time to do it, even if it's silly. I've seen people comment that it's so stupid and long. Who gives a fuck? It's goofy. Who cares? Anyways.
The community decided to allow runners to have a pre-made save file that has the ability to skip all cutscenes in the game.
So I tried to replicate this. This is a very, very specific tech. It is so hard to explain that I opted to not show it in the video because I felt like it would take away from what was happening. I really could have, though. I really could have showed exactly what was going on. I could have played this cutscene at normal speed and gotten away with it because I was actually actively explaining something, as opposed to I felt like I had to rush myself through this, so I didn't think about it too much. I really should have changed it and explained how the pre-save loads work, or the pre-save files work. But yeah, I will do it when I come back to it someday, when we do Murray Must Die again, which should be around the time that this video releases. So that's the hope, that's the dream. And also I want to talk about it when we officially do a Speedrun Explained video for the full any percent.
With this, anyone who starts a new file will be able to skip these animated cutscenes. However, the first cutscene is required to be watched according to the rules of the run. We do this because, in all other animated cutscenes, Sly researches and profiles each member of the Claw Gang, the main antagonist of this game as he approaches their level.
Somebody pointed out that it's not the Claw Gang here, it's the Fiendish Five, and the Claw Gang is actually a post-Clockwork thing, so in Sly 2. So my bad, another factually incorrect thing.
And this cutscene just so happens to have
Murray, part-time driver and full-time burden.
And so, it's our mission to take Murray down. After this cutscene and a few lines of dialogue,
I think that's a very awkward transition. I should have written that better, or at least enunciated better. And so, it's our goal to take Murray down, you know, just to give a little bit more of a heroics to it.
We can enter the first level. We mash triangle to skip the cutscene, and right out of the van we have yet another proxy. but this one is way more lenient. Just get your nose stuck in around the first E and keep out, and you'll be flung up to the top of this rock and out of bounds. Skipping a Binocucom conversation with Bentley, we continue to the right.
So I called back to it. Again, I did all of my deep explanation on what Binocucoms are, because they're short, they're irrelevant, but there is a tech to it, and I appreciate that I did that. Would it have been better to show it now? Maybe, because it's relevant, but I also thought that it would break the pace just a little bit too much, especially because this level has so much explaining to do.
Right, jumping down and pressing circle to hook onto the rope, but before Sly fully tethers, we perform a double jump and rehook ad nauseum.
I forgot. Ad nauseum is just means on repeat, like to the point of being sickening. I did that because I thought it would be funny to include language that is intentionally flowery and not something that you would hear on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, I do that so much, and I like it. I think it's a good core to my character, but just know that that is done so intentionally. Yeah.
Named a cane jump, because the cane touching the rope is all that's needed to perform the tech. Doing this is way faster than climbing up normally. Oh, and by the way, we are intentionally not picking up these bottles for an upcoming skip, aptly named triple jump. To keep it safe, casual runners would defeat this enemy first, because he'll be constantly harassing us otherwise. But with enough precision, this can be skipped to save a few seconds. Alright,
big things to
now time for more Sly trivia. Another strange quirk about Sly 1 is that the game slows down to a halt when pausing, rather than the game immediately freezing. The same is true when unpausing the game too, which can be easily visualized with projectiles or moving platforms. It's actually the unpausing part of this quirk that allows us to perform a triple jump, which is just as it sounds. We first set up this trick by ledge hanging on this frog statue and line our camera up with this brick texture here. From this point, we jump towards the brick.
I should have pointed to it. I really should have pointed to it. I can't believe I forgot to.
And line our camera up with this brick texture here.
I say that the stuff pops up on screen, but I have no arrows pointing to the big brick. Not the one on the bottom left of this pillar, but the big one in the middle. That is the brick that we're lining up with, but I don't point it out, and I felt so stupid for that, because there's zero context for what brick we're supposed to be looking at. I'm sure you can intuit it, but I felt really bad about this one.
From this point, we jump towards the brick, hit square to swing our cane, and immediately pausing after we do so. If our angle is good, we should now be able to press X to close the menu, begin holding forward, and hit X 2 more times, which will give us 2 normal jumps instead of a double jump. Finally, at the apex of our jump, we will hit X again to finish off with a double jump, which should just barely give us enough height to ledge grab this platform and get out of bounds. Oh, and the reason why we don't grab the bottles up until this point is because Bentley starts a dialogue with us explaining how we need to collect the bottles to open a safe in this level. However, when a dialogue like this is occurring, the game will immediately pause and unpause instead of ramping up or down, making this trick impossible. But there is a window after we collect this bottle where Bentley doesn't begin his dialogue, so we use this time to perform the triple jump as fast as we can. This is what it looks like in one smooth motion.
I'm just going to 2 times speed it, because we don't really need to watch the video verbatim. It's less of what I do in the video, and like as far as gameplay, and more of how I deliver the commentary. I think that I did a good job there. It was a lengthy pause, to be sure, to like show off this quirk, but again, I felt like the explanation was important as I was showing it off. I could have cleaned up a little bit, but it worked out. This is first video explanation. I think that I did okay.
All that's left to do is head along the specific path on the top of the rocks, jump over this wall, and then make our way past a gate that has another Binocucom cutscene, which, for triple jump skip, we skip 2 of.
So there's a lot of dead air here, you'll notice. That was
the last part of this run-up.
That was a lot of dead air. I really should have put something here. I should have put the dialogue a little bit earlier. I should have just figured out a way to include some sort of C2A. It's a call to action. It's just too awkward. A lot of people would leave at that point if, like, I would leave if there was that much dead room.
is pretty linear, but we can still optimize our route by jumping on these spinning wheels so we don't have to wait for their cycle.
Thank you to Neon, using one of their clips. Again, third place world record holder.
Keep in mind though, the collision box on these walls are pretty finicky, so in a more casual run you would be better off waiting.
Another trick I didn't master.
This run-up is pretty long, so I'm going to take this opportunity to thank you for watching up until this point.
So that was a good pause. That wasn't too long. I know it's sped up, but that wasn't too long. It wasn't too awkward. I think it was just right. This next run-up is really bad. I wish I would have recorded something new. And in fact, for what I'm saying right now, I did re-record. It wasn't long enough.
If you would like to see more content like this, please let me know. I would love to cover the full speedrun for this game eventually.
It's a whole nothing. That's my call to action.
We end this area by collecting the only key needed for the run, and make our way to the main hub for World 1.
An okay break and pace, I think. Still a little long.
The second we have control over Sly, we can pause and reload our game so that it puts us in the respawn point of the hub. This skips a long walk up and another Banaki-Com cutscene. Before the screen wipe has finished, we want to immediately run diagonally up right to catch a good cycle on the guard on the roof up here. You can actually jump up on the lamp here, and from the lamp up to save a bit of climbing, which brings us to the first part of World 1 skip, which...
We have another explanation. I'm glad that I explained the long jumping and the slope jumping, because every trick up until like the end of this run uses it, and I knew I had a lot of explanations to go through for other parts of the trick. So I'm really happy that I did it. I just wish I would have, kind of cut the slack and saying we're doing World 1 skip, which, as it suggests, skips of all World 1's, all of World 1's levels. I should have just said, now we'll do World 1 skip, where we skip straight to Raleigh, the boss of this world. It could have saved me some extra dialogue to put in.
As it suggests, skips all of World 1's levels and brings us straight to Raleigh, the boss of this world. We start off with what is referred to as a booger jump, aptly named because we jump off of the booger projectile that this squid guard fires at us. We start by approaching the middle alcove, and we let the guard see us so we can grab its aggro. Once he rounds the corner, we will push into the wall and double jump to slope jump over the partition, and the guard will stupidly try to shoot us through the wall. We will keep running into this corner until he rounds this bend again.
I think that's fine, flowery language. He will stupidly try to shoot us through the wall. I think that's humorous enough to exhale air from your nose, and it isn't so canned and dry like, just saying, and the guard will just try to shoot us through the wall. It's fine. I think it works.
But instead of jumping back, we need to intentionally wait for him to get close enough to shoot us again. When he is positioned here, we are going to use a long jump tech mentioned at the start of the video, as well as a slope jump to gain the most height possible. If we time it right, the guard will shoot a booger just beneath Sly, the splash of which will give him stable ground for a moment in order for him to long double jump again and clear the wall. Now, I know that was a lot, but trust me when I say, this is one of the easier tricks to perform in the run. Altogether, the movement looks something like this.
So, explain, show, give it at a relevant point. My timing for these is pretty good.
Now that our feet are all snotty on the other side of the wall, we can jump up on an invisible wall and over onto the second part of the hub, which skips 3 levels for keys, as well as several Banaki-Com conversations with Bentley. Once we make our way over to the cannon, we can begin the second part of World 1 skip, super jumping. We begin by positioning Sly at this corner of the cannon, and jump with a wide berth over to the right to avoid the key insertion cutscene trigger. Right before we hit the ground again, we will hit square to swing our cane, and X to jump again. If you time it right, you'll notice that Sly doesn't produce any dust particles when he hits the ground. The game actually uses these particles as a means to signify to the player that Sly has touched the ground. He will return to the spot if you fall off with a lucky charm or get stuck. But by delaying our landing by swinging, we don't generate dust particles as we land, and thus don't update the safe position for Sly to return to. Theoretically, we can do this as long as we want, but we will instead opt to jump over to the bridge and wedge Sly in between the bridge and these barrels. And, unlike a proxy that doesn't like Sly being in a gap we can't fit in and physics go crazy, a super jump is abusing the failsafe in place to prevent Sly from being fully stuck. The real kicker, however, is that it also has the properties of breaking the game's physics. And
so, I already mentioned with the proxies that it does break the game's physics. The game does everything in its power to return you to a safe place. If you are stuck, otherwise, in a proxy, you would you would be flung instead. So that's the main difference. I feel like I could have explained it a little bit easier. They are different marginally if you split the hairs on it, but they do both break the game. But the proxy doesn't launch Sly through things. The super jump does. And that's what I meant here by breaking the physics. I explain it, of course, like a little bit, but I could have just said, aside from a proxy, unlike a proxy, Super jumping is you truly get stuck, and the game notices this and will bring you back to your safe point, even if it puts you through the wall. Like it sends you through walls. So yeah.
And clipping Sly into the cannon, which has its activation zone always on, allowing us to skip 4 more levels and sending us straight to Raleigh's boss fight. Here's the full trick and play. And much like Booger Jump, this sounds far more intimidating than it actually is. It took me around 10 practice attempts before I got it down.
Super easy, by the way. I don't know how hard I can push this. This is one of the easiest tricks in the entire game to do. So easy. Like maybe even easier than the beginning sign proxy. That is such an easy trick to do. I really do recommend that even if you're not speedrunning this game or the category is as fully intended, um, just give this one a try. It feels so good to nail it.
With just this boss fight left, we can actually abuse the autosave feature by resetting the console or emulator right when we see this icon.
I wish I could have expressed this more easily. Up in the corner, I have the POV of you not resetting. I know it's cut off a little bit, but it says POV, you didn't reset. I have a reset in the center of the screen. I showed the icon. There's so much visually happening here, and I wish I had made this cleaner. And then on top of that, I make another factual blunder, and I accidentally say the wrong time. I say the difference in time, not necessarily the length of time.
Icon. It may seem like this will waste time, but from the moment the level loads all the way till Raleigh's dialogue ends, it takes 54 seconds, whereas resetting only takes around 18 seconds.
No, yeah, so I say 18, but that's actually how much time it saves. 30, it takes 36 total seconds, and I can't believe I didn't catch that in my recording or my script. But I did catch it in editing, so I could show, I could show that I knew what I was talking about at the bare minimum. Again, not perfect, but
huge. It's for resets like this, however, that emulators are unable to claim first place in any percent over consoles, because even an average PC would load the game faster than a PS2 or PS3 could ever dream of. Raleigh as a boss fight is pretty straightforward. He has 4 phases, and in the first 3 he jumps 5 times before becoming vulnerable. There is a slight time save in each phase by waiting for him to attempt to jump back to safety before hitting him, which skips his drowning animation.
A lot of dead space here. I could have said a little bit more.
And for reference, we've hit Raleigh twice before that other cutscene would have ended.
I interject, but
the last phase is where things get crazy, though. And after we evade Raleigh 6 times, I'll pause and walk you through how runners skip Raleigh's post-fight dialogue and animated cutscenes. If you remember from earlier, we determined from triple jump skip that pausing and unpausing the game both slows down to a halt and ramps up to a start respectively, and we can abuse the slowdown here to swing at Raleigh while he's vulnerable and pause. Because the autosave icon pops up here, the game considers Raleigh defeated, meaning we can return to the hideout and immediately proceed to the next level. Keep in mind that this works even if you don't hit Raleigh before the pause takes effect, because even while the level's loading, Sly is still actionable, and it will still count the hit of Raleigh even when we're menuing like this.
That was very hard to follow. And again, I could have used I could have had better dialogue here. I think that it ended up being okay, but I really could have changed my direction, my flow, to make it sound more natural. All that's really happening is if you pause before hitting him, it's okay to reload because Sly continues his swing as the level is transitioning. But I stated that an easier way to do it is to, swing, swing, pause, and then load so that you hit him as he is doing, as you're loading out. It's complicated. It's another splitting hairs example that I could have done a little bit better at differentiating because they are different. The one where you swing first and then do it as the split second is faster, but the one where you accidentally swing pause hit is slightly slower.
We mash through Mugshot's animated cutscene and proceed with the run-up. We abuse the level geometry to skip some climbing sections, and get ready to perform the hardest trick in MMD%, Cletus Skip, or Dog Proxy. Up ahead is a dog enemy tied to a pole, which becomes active when Sly is within a certain radius. The final and most important quirk of this game is that, unlike many other games, the enemies in Sly Cooper...
I should have said run, not final and most important quirk, because that's a lie. There's a lot of quirks that happen in the main run. The most important quirk of this run. But also, with this upcoming skip that I'm explaining with Cletus Skip, I could have done so much better explaining it, but in truth, I don't actually fully understand how this works. It was a toss-up on if I got it first try, and I know that a lot of runners are to the point where they've lessened the margin of error. Sometimes it just doesn't work. There's no true consistent setup. This is the best, but even Gehis doesn't line up perfectly. He doesn't do like a full true like take the jump over, stuff like that. But it's something that just to keep in mind when I explain it. I tried to explain it in confidence, but this may be wrong at the end of the day.
Don't have a damaging hitbox when they aren't attacking. After the dog hits the pole, there's a window where he can't damage us, but will still rotate towards us as he winds up for his next attack. We start by positioning Sly on the center point where these rocks meet, and then jump with a neutral stick input, only tapping left on the D-pad once to move Sly over one step. We then line up our camera until this bush is centered on the screen. At this point, Cletus begins to wind up his attack by...
I'm noticing here that I even for this particular example, I'm lined up far too far to the right of this bush. And it still worked. I don't know how.
First barking, and then charging. When he barks, he is locked into Sly's current position. So we'll take this up.
Also, you're supposed to do D-pad inputs, but I started, because I use a GameCube controller and it's all notched inputs and directions, I started to just use the control stick. But it is true that on an original PS controller, you need it because you don't have notched directionals.
Opportunity to run forwards with the D-pad slightly, and then long double jump to a stop right around here. It's important that we wait until Cletus has almost hit the pole before moving again, otherwise we'll run into a still active hurt box and perish. Once he does so, we hold diagonally upright with the D-pad straight into the pole, and without stopping, we wait for a visual cue to shift this run into an upwards D-pad input. This is usually halfway through him shaking his head. If done too early, Sly won't get any height at all and drown in the lake to the left. And if done too late, Sly will launch so fast and far that we will be flung out of bounds and Sly will fall to his death. But if you do it just right...
Hold on.
And without stopping, we wait for a visual cue to shift this run into an upwards D-pad input. This is usually halfway through him shaking his head. If done too early, Sly won't get any height at all and drown in the lake to the left. And if done too late, Sly will launch so fast and far that we will be flung out of bounds and Sly will fall to his death.
I probably wasn't listening too close. I say left and death, and I thought I said death twice, which... When you're writing something, by the way, try not to do that because it sounds a little cheesy and weird. It doesn't flow conversation, it just repeats it.
But if you do it just right...
I could have done this more times to get this better. Again, only my critique here. My next critique is that I explain Vault Skip wrong.
After this launch, we kill this enemy here to set up the second hardest trick in the run, Vault Skip. We'll be abusing the janky collision in this corner to the left of the vault, and begin by lining up this gray texture on the right to where we barely can't see it anymore.
See, I have an arrow here, but I didn't have it for the brick.
Once we have this, we'll neutral jump, then at the apex of the jump, hold forward on the D-pad, and right as we hit the ground and we see the dust kick up...
In this clip, there is no dust. I explain... because that is how it was explained to me. So again, I wrote the script first. When I did it waiting for the dust, it never worked. But when I did it before I saw the dust, it worked. I don't know why. Again, another weird quirky, maybe it's an emulator problem. I have no idea.
Jump again. Doing this clips us to the locked vault, saving us from having to watch the lengthy key animation. Though, if you mess this up, you can actually fall underneath the vault and completely soft lock yourself, which is usually the run killer.
I shouldn't have said usually. I should have said, it is the run killer. There is actually no way out of that. You cannot escape. At all. Usually is a one word that ruins that whole dialogue, but...
When we land, we can immediately reload the level, and then reload again once the binocucom pops up to skip Bentley's dialogue. From here, we double jump over this guard's light and kill him, but instead of running left like any percent does for World 2 skip, we run to the right to enter Murray's big gamble.
So I speed up here. I don't know why I didn't decide to do a speed up at the beginning when I had a lot of dead air. It's very obvious that I speed up, right? I don't know why I just didn't go back and edit that down to slim down the dead air. Because this is a fine break to me, because I can clearly show that I'm speeding up. And every break for this level that I've taken, I think is fine. We enter the level. I could have started talking earlier, but whatever.
All that's left is to reload our save to skip the last binocucom conversation with Bentley, perfectly time our shots, and
And there we go. And then I changed mic setup here.
Just like that, the run is over. We've defeated the liability of the team for the greater good, and Utah is safe from the clutches of Murray. If you've made it this far into the video, I appreciate you for joining me on the silly adventure I created. Since I don't have a lot of time to stream and effectively practice for full speedruns, creating a short run like this was a ton of fun. On top of getting my fastest time of 10:12, we killed Murray a total of 51 times, and also raised $115 for the Extra Life charity. All this is to say, I encourage you to give this run a try, and let me know if you can beat my time. Seriously, this run is not that hard to learn. I think anybody can give it a shot. The thumbnail for this video was made by Winry Loveday. I'll have their information in the description. Someday I'll tackle a full run of this game, and make a full speedrun history for it as well. If something like that interests you, let me know in the comments below. And since this is my first official video, I don't have much in the way of content to direct you to yet, but I do plan on releasing a video at the beginning of every month, so if you want to see more videos like this, make sure you subscribe. Otherwise, you'll find me on Twitch, at LootVT, running a new category for a Windbreaker run.
I feel really bad for this. I know this is an outro. I don't usually think that I would talk about outros, or I didn't think that I would. I feel so bad that in a video that I made, I committed to a concept for the next video, and I couldn't deliver on it. That is my biggest regret. My most massive regret when it comes to this video, bigger than anything else. I shouldn't have committed because I couldn't do the run. I literally couldn't do this Windbreaker run. I couldn't do my Ape Escape run. So I was out 2 months of videos that I wanted to do. And I was really down because I couldn't perform. But again, even I even say it here, I am not fully practiced. I shouldn't have had an expectation on myself to do this. You know, I shouldn't have had this expectation. And because I built that expectation, it ruins, like, you watch this and now you're like, well, where's the Wind Waker run? Where did that go? You know? So that's my biggest regret. I really wish I hadn't said that or included it in the video. But with all of that being said, for those that are watching and trying to learn, when you make a commitment like that, it needs to be vague. So in the next video and the video after, you'll see that I say, you know, if you want to see me cover more videos like this, let me know, which is a very normal statement. It's vague. I can say something as broad as, I will talk about the speedrun again someday, or I will be talking about this quirk of the game someday, because that's realistic. Not, I'm going to be routing out a new run for Wind Waker. But yeah.
I think that jump is a little finicky. Oh no. Take it easy, and I'll see you in the next video.
And there we go. There we have it. I didn't expect to spend an hour on this, so thank you for joining me for this journey. There's still a lot to unpack, but I'm happy with this retrospective. I've talked about all the things that I would fix and all the things that I did like. If you are, like, as far as this goes, as far as end screens go, show your next video, not necessarily 2 videos in advance, unless you directly reference that video. Do everything in your possible power to reference directly, not just vaguely suggest to go see it, like with an end screen like this. I'll see you in the next video. I had no content. My only next video is Sly Cooper's most infamous level. That's it. That's all I can do, which is totally fine. That's just a tiny little thing, a tiny little detail to look out for. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're watching this 6 months from today, then that means that you are just watching this for free. But if you would like to see videos like this more often, and as they come out, as they happen closer to the date, you can just follow me on Patreon. I have 1 tier as of right now, which is the $3 tier. And for everybody who is already my patron or a patron to me, sorry, I'm talking too fast. Everyone who is a patron to me, or is subscribed on Twitch, for example, or is supporting me in a different way, you get to see this now. Thank you. I really do appreciate it. You are all amazing, and you are helping me take the steps I need to make my dreams a reality and come true. So, yeah, thank you all so much for watching. and I will see you in the next retrospective. Please take care of yourselves. Take care now. And a big yard to wrap.